So as we discussed at the last meeting, we elected to do a kind of a next generation scan of the Riviera in and around the building to help us fully ascertain what is out there, the finite detail elements. There was a scan previously done. It was substandard at best. This is going to get asked for everything that you want, and then you can negotiate backwards. Once we do get the scan and get it into a Revit model, and we'll come back with the two-dimensional drawings and put it in this so you can see the three-dimension, and then pending your approval and direction, and we'll go back to ship out and say, this is what the city would like, you know, tell us which way to go. But this is going to make it much, much quicker and faster to accurately demonstrate what we're talking about. This pulls up, when we're scanning, we're pulling close to 360,000 points per second. So it's a fairly data-rich file. It's probably going to take another week and a half to compress all this and get it into a Revit file. And as soon as that's done, we'll jump on ideas and designs based on your direction for the inside.
And so as part of that, Adam, we talked about this the first go around. This helps in our space planning because you also have dimensions down to the quarter inch. I mean, you have your measurements that are like exact within a really small specification. So as far as space planning, realistic planning for a space downstairs or upstairs, you'll be able to plug things in and say. And contractors will also know when they're putting things together what the possibilities are.
Yes.
And they'll have exact measurements and doing takeoffs and the whole.
And this is not proprietary. You don't have the ability to pull this up yourself. And when I say a slice Revit model, you can do floor plans and modify things and drop and drag tables, chairs, any kind of setup you want. So it's kind of a long-term tool that's going to be good for everybody involved.
Okay, so then for next month's meeting, should we anticipate second floor, first floor opportunities? Will Ann be ready with that yet, or
Yes.
by October's meeting, or?
Yes, that's the goal.
Okay.
In a raw format,
Yeah.
we're waiting your direction.
I know because we're moving on the roof, we're going to talk tonight about those things, those components. But I know on the interior, I really would like to. I mean, I think this group, we're ready to. And we would like to see what the opportunities are. I think we have an idea, but now that we have this, I think we're kind of ready to. So my goal would be for October's meeting to move, or at least show some opportunities. And your, if possible.
Yes, she will be here.
Okay.
We'll be ready.
John, or you guys have questions or anything? Okay. Letter B, roof replacement request for proposals.
Okay.
And you want to kind of talk about, last month we discussed, and we went at, we were going three different categories.
Correct.
Glass, tuck pointing, and roof, and we've been talking this month,
Right.
even within the last week. We were roof rich and had some good feedback, but we were a little down on the glass and the tuck pointing.
Correct.
And we're maybe wanting to extend it and give it a little bit longer. Go ahead, Dave. And
Okay. So as we
That's me, this is it. Just making sure that I don't get.
as we discussed last month, again, we were looking at trying to get our proposals in for the roof and the remaining exterior shell components. Again, as Doug had mentioned, we were starting to get a little bit pressed for the tuck pointing and the glass and glazing. And out of the interest of trying to make sure we had as much coverage as we could get and that the coverage we had was as accurate as possible, we did opt to postpone or extend the proposal due date for the tuck pointing and glass and glazing to Wednesday, October 2nd. So that will be the new proposal due date for those two items. We don't think it will be a negative impact to the schedule because we don't need those items on site the first week of February. Really, the biggest focus is trying to get started on the roof right away. So, so we do have the roof proposals tonight, which Dave has handed out. To give a little bit of background, just to let you know, we did try to canvass everything we could from Milwaukee to Madison to Northern Illinois. We even downloaded the contractors on Wisconsin's chapter of the American Slate Tile Association to see who was all listed there. So we started from a list of about 17 vendors that we thought were good candidates to solicit proposals from, and contacting all of them personally, discussing schedule, time frame, and the project. That list whittled down to about 11. All of those 11 are listed across the top of your spreadsheets, and I'll just say, let's start with spreadsheet A, or option A, for the clay tile.
Is there
And
another spreadsheet of them?
Yes, Piers.
Sure.
John, we got it in the middle here.
Out of the 11 contractors that had indicated they would like to receive plans, we did receive 5 proposals this morning for that work. As you can see, we had a range of prices. If you just want to go across, we had Connoisseur at $410, $125 for their base proposal. We had Lanier at $523. If you want to keep scrolling across, we had Renaissance at $483, $905, and Vandehay at $543, $850. If you scroll down, the reason Knickerbocker's number isn't up at the top is they broke out their proposal individually according to the proposal form. So if you scroll down on the spreadsheet, yeah, so you'll see here's the summary of those items. There were a couple of alternates that we looked at. One for removing the guttering from the clear story roof, and alternate number 2 was for flashing in 4 flagpoles if the city decides they wanted to reinstall the 4 flagpoles. And that was for the flashing in. That doesn't include the flagpoles themselves, but that would be the roofing work associated with it. We also asked for them to quote some unit prices should there be additional work required over and above the contract, just to try to lock them in, because it's always a good idea to try to lock them in with unit prices via the bid process versus once they have the job, they're under contract, then all of a sudden, now instead of what might be $90 an hour, all of a sudden becomes $100 an hour. So we wanted to get that qualified up front before we go to issue contracts. So everything all in, if you go down to the total adjusted bid amount, including alternates, if you start from the far left, the $880,000 was what we were carrying as our conceptual budget that we had targeted back in 2018. Now that 880 did include the scaffolding, which is not part of any of the roofing proposals. But if you adjust for scaffolding, it's probably still somewhere in the 780, maybe 775,000 range for what the roofing itself would have been. So long story short, our bids came in well under what we were targeting for the clay tile roof. If you scroll down to the next categories, since these were proposals, and if you go over to the left side, we actually wanted to score them. And the reason for proposals versus hard bids is that it gives you the opportunity to evaluate the experience, the qualifications, how many similar projects the contractors have done recently of this sort of nature, and then what the cost is. So it gives you a way to weight them, just so that all of a sudden you get 2 men and a clay tile roof that submits a proposal for $300,000, and all of a sudden they're expecting to get the job, but they've never done one before. It's a way that you can evaluate their bid and keep in mind the qualification part in their previous experience. So this morning we did go through and we weighted items. If you'll look at the first one for connoisseur roofing, we did give them the maximum 50 points for the cost portion of their stuff. At the time that we received the bids, they had forwarded only the proposal forms themselves, and they did not forward any qualifications or resume of projects. Since that time, Dave, they had forwarded a copy to Adam at the office that I was unaware of. So Connoisseur has done some work, and actually most notably, I believe that they were the roofing contractor on the Bella Vista project right around the corner from the Riviera. So if you remember that one, and again, that looked like that was the clay tile roof. So they have done these before, but it was just that we didn't have that information at the time that the proposals were due. And so we didn't know how to score their qualifications, their things like that. So it's still kind of a little bit of an unknown with Connoisseur. If you move over to Knickerbocker and Langer, if you slide over, Adam.
Keep going right.
Yep. Okay, so Knickerbocker and Langer are the next two. Knickerbocker is the one that was at $561,300, and Langer's at $534,636. For each of those contractors, we felt that they were both very well. They both had great resumes. They both had great experiences and references, so we both gave them maximum points for that. We did downgrade them a little bit just based on the cost. So we gave them 40 or 35.5 based on where their costs came in, and that's where the difference came. And then if you slide all the way across to the other side, that would be the Renaissance and Bandahay. Renaissance is the one on the left, and Bandahay is the one on the right. Again, all of those contractors we felt were well-heeled. They had tremendous amount of work experience in this exact area that we're looking at, and we gave Renaissance 45 points for the cost portion because their bid was second place out of the 5 that we received. We gave Bandahay 38 points because they were relatively close, but they were still a little bit below Renaissance. So from a point standpoint, we had the unknown with Connoisseur because at the time, again, we didn't have their stuff, but then for the other remaining points, if you look at the bottom, we had anywhere from a low of, I think it was 85.5 for Knickerbocker. It went to 88 for Bandahay. It went to 90 for Langer, and out of 100 points, we had Renaissance at 95.
Did Bandahay do our last roof?
Bandahay did the concrete tile roof that's on there right now in 1992. So,
92.
yes, we did find that out during the process.
Was it Renaissance involved in
Renaissance.
remodel?
Yeah.
I mean, they've got some history on that roof.
Correct. Renaissance, in interest of full disclosure, Renaissance was our consultant that we used for their expertise to try to give recommendations of what we should do, what our approach should be. So Renaissance was our consultant that we used during the site visit, and they offered their thoughts preliminarily. So they did have, I'm not going to say a vested interest, but they were part of the process to try to get us from A to Z where we are right now.
So at Renaissance and a major supply chain for flagpoles.
Correct, and we didn't expect that that would really be part of their work, but we did expect that they would do the flashing for those. Now, we can certainly, as part of the contract negotiations, make sure that they do fill in those spots that, if the city decides they want to install the flagpoles back up, we would certainly try to make sure that that base is covered before any contract is issued. If the city decides they don't want the liability of having flagpoles up there and having to do maintenance, or with a flagpole, depending if it's a US flag, then you might have to also add lighting to the flagpole, things like that. It's more of a take it as we evolve that scope of work. So we can certainly fill in those blanks, but in general, these are where the proposals came in for the roofing.
Okay, so in, they also replacing the flat seam, was that copper, was that?
It's copper.
That is copper, and so were they concerned at all with, I don't know if there's any penetrations of the copper, were they concerned at all with the condition of the copper
No.
seams?
No, and actually, all
Craftsmanship?
5 bidders had interpreted that the flat valleys were in good shape, and
Things like contingency, scaffolding, oversight.
that would be part of our project requirements, that we will insert the roofing number with the tuck pointing and the glass and glazing number that we get in a couple of weeks, and we will have one lump sum number for what we would call, I don't know if you want to call it phase 1 or phase 2 or whatever, but that would be our total number. The roof would be one of the components for that. And then the glass and glazing and the tuck pointing would be the other component of that.
John, Tim, Rich, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I
Go ahead. Terry, go and then Rich.
mentioned Bella Vista, and that was brought to my attention several times when I was being yelled at about why this is taking so long and so expensive, that Connoisseur did the Bella Vista with used tile.
Okay. I was not aware of that. But this is.
That's what Mr. Lorenzi told me.
Sure. But this is all new tile, brand new. It's a Luidici tile.
I just was wondering if that was the price disparity.
And
And
it's-
even on the additional work, you know, when he's talking about $2.50 a square foot, and everybody else is talking about $15.
$2.50, I think that's, I'm positive that's a typo. I mean, $2.50 a square foot, I'm cheating.
I mean, everybody else is at 15, but I
Yeah,
can't imagine, he might be
but-
12,
And then the
15.
$500 flagpole, and the flagpole was, that was basically the flashing, the base assembly, the whole
Right.
thing, but at $500 up to be up on that.
For all 4 of them.
Yeah,
But there's a difference in the ratio of covers too.
Yeah.
It's a huge difference.
so Dave, if we tonight said, hey, we want to move forward with this roof, for us to, the next step would be for us to send this to FLR and then ultimately to council. Right now, we don't have, we don't know where we would be price-wise because we don't have the other 2 components. Are you able to
Well-
carve that out and just contingency and scaffold for this part or?
We could possibly, if I had to make that choice, and it's one of the parts of my job that I like the least, because I know they all put in the work to provide proposals, and I know they're all good guys and they all want the work, but
You want me to do it for you?
I'd rather have you cheering on the Brewers. But given the information that we've got and all of the information available, unfortunately for Connoisseur, my choice would be for Renaissance at this point.
Go ahead, John.
Is there any difference in availability of these guys?
No, we made it clear with everybody as part of the bid process that the work would be scheduled to start the week of February 3rd.
Snow and ice in February.
When we talked to the roofer about that, they said they actually prefer to do this in winter because it's drier, they don't have to deal with rain, and the rain is what makes the tile roofs more slippery than snow is something they would just simply push off.
But remember when we had the tornado in January?
Yes.
So,
And you have to wait in February.
yeah.
And again, by virtue of having the scaffolding as a work platform around the building, we're able to take that scaffolding one step further and wrap it with reinforced plastic so that we can enclose it. And trust me, on a polar vortex day when it's 20 degrees below zero, we're still not gonna be out there working. But if it's a day where it's in the upper teens or the 20s, they'll be out there, and inside the enclosure, it'll probably be in the low to mid 40s.
I've been in those before, up in Milwaukee, and they're actually warmer than that. When you get it done right, and they wrapped up and it's nice and warm.
So we should have a roll sometime in April.
Yes, or before.
Hopefully, so say. 90 days was the original.
So, does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make some more.
And just one quick thing also, and Doug, I don't know if I should 100% bring this up, but there was an email that was floated out to us, I think it was the end of last week, regarding a possible bridal show for early January. And we reached out to the vendor that was gonna be providing the scaffolding, and we asked them how many days he needed to erect the scaffolding, and we got him down to 2 weeks. So what we relayed back to Dave is that if there's any way they could do the bridal show the first Sunday or the second Sunday of January, that would be best, because what we wanted to do is use the 2 weeks prior to Winterfest to try to set up the scaffolding around the 3 lakeside elevations of the rib. And then we would leave the 4th side with the grand entry stairs, we would leave that open for Winterfest. But at least it would give us a head start to get the enclosures in place prior to work starting in February.
Bottom line, as far as that discussion, is the people who want to do the bridal show were told that there would be scaffolding up.
Right.
Provide them the copy of the photograph that you
Yeah.
provided, so it's
I
full
thought
disclosure,
we
we want
told
to continue
people-
with it, then
Yeah.
that's their gig. But they know it's coming, and they know what it's
Didn't we
doing.
also have that lady, what do you call it, ladies weekend, or did they have it?
That's a big one.
Yeah, I think they call that.
That's later.
Okay.
Okay, so that's about everything I know about roofing at this point.
All right,
I'll make a comment after seeing this, I'm assuming everybody at this table says, why wouldn't we use concrete when it's more expensive? There's cement. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So that is a moot point, so they can forget about that, I would hope. And then, looking at the disparity in the prices in the point system, and he seems to know those guys, and they're on drill a lot of times. I'd make a motion that we go with Renaissance for that amount of money, and then their overtime.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Kim, you're awful quiet, anything? Sharon? Yeah, I agree with Rich. I saw the numbers. Dave and I was in Dave's office today and went through the numbers, and I was pleasantly surprised, especially when we look at, this is the city's money. When we look at opportunities in other places and what we were afraid of, maybe, 1.2 or 1.3 or 900,000, we weren't sure where we would be. So, with the economy, with other projects going on, I was really surprised. And honestly, Dave, I kept going to the bottom to look for more money. I was looking for some other sheet, and I was really surprised and at the same time. So I think it's good. I think it's a good direction. And if anybody has any discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Good job.